On today's show, we'll be joined by a very special guest, head coach of Auburn Tigers men's basketball, Bruce Pearl, to talk about his time with Jabari Smith Jr., what makes him such a special talent, his work ethic, his drive, also some anecdotes about Jalen Green almost becoming a member of Auburn Tigers men's basketball program. All of that and more coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
You're getting somebody who's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, somebody who's going to come in and compete from day one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays, host of the State of the Rockets podcast, as well as the founder of ClutchCityControlRoom.com. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. As always, we appreciate you for making LOR your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But let's go ahead and dive into our interview with Auburn Tigers men's basketball head coach Bruce Pearl. Joining us now to talk about Jabari Smith Jr. is a very, very special guest, head coach of Auburn Tigers men's basketball, Bruce Pearl. How's it going, Coach?
We're doing great. How's everything going, man?
I'll tell you what, we are excited to have Jabari Smith Jr., this young man in Houston. It's going to be a very, very special thing for this Houston Rockets team to have him, to pair him with Jalen Green. And who better than to kind of get a glimpse at the player, the type of talent that the Rockets just got with Jabari Smith than you. And so that where I want to start is just, what kind of a talent are the Houston Rockets getting with this young man in Jabari Smith Jr.?
Well, two things. First of all, it's great to be with you guys, and I too am excited about Jabari being with such a great organization. They absolutely knocked it out of the park the last couple of drafts. I'm going to go one step back before I go forward. We were a finalist for Jalen Green here at Auburn, and so I got to know Jalen and his mom and his sister, and incredible family. And you know what? Those two together. Oh, my goodness gracious. You talk about stretching the floor. You talk about guys that are, both competitors, that both have a tremendous inner confidence to be the best. I think they're both NBA All-Stars. And so I'm excited about, obviously watching the Rockets now, but I had a very close relationship with Jalen Green. Loved him. And, almost had a chance to coach him. What you're getting with Jabari is a guy that just turned 19, but he might as well be 29. He's an old soul. He's a guy that gets up in the morning before anybody else and consistently gets his work in, and is, for his size, maybe the best shooter that's ever been in college basketball. Jabari Smith made more threes than any player in the history of college basketball at 6'10" or bigger, and he shot 42%. I mean, he shot a great percentage while he made more than anybody. So let me tell you something. The Rockets get him open, he's going to make shots.
His shooting stroke is absolutely unbelievable, and that's kind of the skill that I feel like most people, probably myself included, would point to as his best skill. But I am curious to know, his defense is highly touted, right? He's got the physical gifts to be a high caliber defender. Do you just mark his shooting as his absolute best skill, or is there something else in there that you value, maybe even a little bit more than his shooting as a player?
All I'm saying is that there are a lot of great rebounders, a lot of great dribble penetrators and creators, or a lot of great defenders. There are very few great elite shooters. And so, look, what he does, so few can do. Now, you're right. He can guard 1 through 5. Like, he values, being able to defend. He can switch and keep guards in front of him and retreat and challenge him at the rim. He's tough enough to be able to go inside. And look, they're going to try to manhandle him at first. They're going to try to, I'm sure out in Vegas, they're going to try to be physical with him. They're going to try to post him up. They're going to try to, again, manhandle him. He is 200 and probably 15 pounds. and he's going to go against guys that are going to be 30 and 40 and 50 pounds bigger than him. His body will take on some more size, and when he does, he'll be able to, do more both offensively and defensively on the inside. But Jabari is going to be in the right place at the right time. He's going to make plays. He's going to rebound his position. He's going to block shots. And he understands winning. I mean, more than anything else, all he wants to do is win. All he wants to do is win. And that's what makes him different than a lot of top 5 picks that are great players. Like Jabari's going to be unbelievable in the locker room. Jabari's going to be unbelievable in a timeout huddle. He's going to make friends in real relationships, and he's going to hold himself and he's going to hold others accountable to one thing and one thing only. And it doesn't matter who gets the credit. The Rockets need to win, and that's all he cares about.
I love that. I love that energy, that mentality that, the coming off of Jabari. We've heard kind of that term like hard worker thrown around a lot in this pre-draft process, talking about Jabari, seeing the work that he put in with Auburn this past season. What's the best story that you have, or the best example of Jabari putting in that work ethic and, putting it into action?
Well, I'm going to tie, and then I got to tie another knot that I think it's incredible, fascinating. So during our season in 2000, I want to say maybe it was 19 or 20, I was taking red eyes out to California to watch Jalen Green. And I was coming back at night, arriving in Atlanta. And before I would go to Auburn, I'd stop at Jabari Smith's high school gym in Sandy Creek, and I'd watch him in practice because he was a 6 a.m. guy. So you think about 6 a.m. for a 9th grader, 10th grader, 11th grader. Other kids are just getting up out of bed. They're on their way to McDonald's to pick up something to eat. Jabari Smith's already got his workout done before school even started. He developed that relationship with the manager to open up the doors, and he got in the gym as a 14-year-old. And then for me, again, I remember, and Jabari, we're not allowed to be there only but a certain number of times, but I almost took every one of my visits off campus to be there in the gym with him early in the morning, as opposed to going to watch him play a high school game. Because for me, I wasn't taking time away from my players by going to watch him play like all the other coaches. I was taking time away from my sleep by going in there and trying to get to Atlanta for an early morning workout. So that work ethic is probably the story that I remember the best.
Coming up, what kind of a leader is Jabari Smith Jr.? Coach Pearl answers that and more. But first, a quick message from our friends over at rockauto.com. Because look, with the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's basically impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you would need in a traditional chain storefront. Why spend up to 30, 50, or even 100% more for the exact same auto parts from a chain store or car dealership? You can save time and money when using rockauto.com. Best of all, they're a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers online for over 20 years. They've got everything you could possibly need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even brand new carpet. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. And this is a really important part. When you go to checkout at rockauto.com, be sure to write "Locked On" in their "How did you hear about us" box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Be sure to visit rockauto.com. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's dive back into our interview with head coach Bruce Pearl. We also, Coach, just came from a Rockets practice where Jabari was talking about the fact that he already feels the impact that his voice can have, especially defensively, with this young Rockets team, with the core group of guys that they're going to be taking to NBA Summer League in Vegas. What type of a vocal leader is Jabari on the floor and both off the floor?
Yeah, I read that also today. And, he's vocal verbally. He understood. Jabari understands this. First, he's going to become friends with those guys. Then they're going to get to know each other, become closer, and then they're eventually going to become brothers. And Jabari gets that. He's all very, very much invested in that. So he'll let his actions speak louder than his words, but he's not afraid to bark. I mean, he will bark. And sometimes that bark, can poke the bear when it comes to the competition, but Jabari can back it up, and he'll give those other guys a level of confidence. Look, Jabari came into Auburn, and here's what he wanted to do, and I think that what he wants to do is Houston. Number one, he wanted to be a great teammate. He wanted to be a great teammate. And what does that mean? How do you invest in your teammates? Two, he wanted to win championships. So therefore, everything he does is going to be where he's going to be productive. Look, Jabari's got a rip game because people are going to go out there and they're going to guard him from the perimeter, make him put the ball down the floor. He'll put the ball down the floor, and he can make some tough shots. He's got such a high release point, and he also's got a touch on the inside. A lot of guys, when they go in and make a power move, just bang it in there, and it's all power, and they're relying on the referee to blow a whistle. Jabari will touch it up on the inside as well. So he's got the voice, but he's got the actions to back it up.
I'm glad you touched base on that, Coach, because that has been kind of one of the biggest criticisms, so far to this point in kind of the evaluation process of Jabari Smith as a prospect is, maybe the, lack of a handle a little bit, as some, draft experts are kind of touting it. And, that kind of leads into maybe some concerns about him being able to, attack off the bounce and create his own shot, create opportunities for himself. What would you say? How would you address those concerns? I know you just touched base on it there momentarily, but if you could dive a little deeper on that.
Well, I think that is a skill that most players possess. So what makes most players special when that's the best thing they can do? What makes them special is they can't shoot it like he can. So you better guard him 2 feet behind that three-point line. You just better. Now, all of a sudden, when he's being guarded out there, that's going to enable him to get to spots. And once he gets to spots, once he gets to that elbow, he's going to rise up above and be able to make shots that other guys simply can't. No, look, if he was a great dribble penetrating, creating guy right now, he'd be just like the rest of them. And so he's not. That is not a criticism. He'll work on his handle. His handle will get better and everything like that. But I don't think the Rockets drafted him, nor should anybody have drafted him to have that be his number one quality.
Love that. I love that answer. And kind of building off of that, though, when we look at kind of some of the differences between the college game and the NBA game, one thing that happens at the NBA level is there's just a little, it feels like there's more spacing to kind of work with, to operate with on the floor. We saw some, times where Jabari was able to have a little bit more spacing, with your team at the collegiate level. What do you think he's going to be able to achieve in a 5-out offense at the NBA level with all that spacing surrounding him?
Well, I mean, obviously, the more space you have, the more he's going to be able to operate. Both offensively and defensively. Because let's face it, he's going to be guarding 5 out as much as he's going to be running it. He had a positive assist turnover ratio. He's a very, very willing passer. Again, he can get to spots on the floor. A lot of guys, when it comes to shooting, need to pull off the bounce to shoot it. Like Jabari going to get a rebound, and you better run without the ball, and you better keep your head up because he will throw it ahead, he will advance past it, and he will get to that line and he'll pull it, and he can go by you. So there are a lot of things in space that he's got to be that he's obviously going to be able to do. And I'll know more after watching the Rockets play a few times and see how they're trying to utilize him to know better.
And I think that's kind of going to be one of the interesting things to see is how they deploy him in Summer League. And so I kind of want to pick your brain here. Do you view Jabari as, more of a big, more of a wing, maybe a little bit of both? I know that the NBA is, transitioning, and basketball in general is transitioning to more of a positionless type of sport where guys can do everything on the floor. But how do you view him?
Well, I don't view him as a center. I mean, I don't think he's an undersized 5. Because he's not undersized. He's 6'11", 6'10", 6'11", and long. So I think he's going to be, whether it be a big guard or a big wing, he's going to play. He'll play 2 through 4. I don't see him being a point guard, although off the break he can handle it. So I just think he's going to be a really, really big guard that's going to stretch the defense, obviously. I think they'll use him in pick and roll. I think they'll use him in pick and pop. I think they'll slip him. And I think they will try to post him up against smaller players. Look, if you're big and you're going to try to guard him, he's going to take you out to the perimeter and he's going to destroy you. And if you're a guard and you're going to try to guard him, they should take him down and post him up on the inside where he can score down in there and do his work.
Coming up, what stands out about Jabari Smith Jr., the person? Also, how does Auburn really prepare these players for success at the collegiate level as well as in the NBA. But first, a quick message from our friends over at Built Bar, because when it comes to protein bars, you've got to check out Built Bar. They're the #1 protein bar on the market, and for a great reason. Every single bar is basically a candy bar jam-packed with protein. They have so many delicious flavors to choose from. You got salted caramel, cookies and cream, strawberry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter. The list goes on and on and on. My personal favorite is coconut brownie chunk, but you really can't go wrong with a single bar on their menu. Every single bar is low-cal, low-sugar, high-protein, high-fiber, amazing if you're on a keto diet, amazing if you're trying to cut back a little bit, maybe lose a little bit of weight. You can check them out. Just go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your very next order of the best-tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball, where we are wrapping up our interview with Auburn Tigers men's basketball head coach Bruce Pearl. Coach, how do you feel, you personally, right, with Auburn, with the players that have come through your system, how do you feel that you guys do preparing guys like Isaac Okoro, JT Thor, Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, the names that have come through your program? How do you feel that, you've prepared them to succeed both at the collegiate level and then also to be prepared to take that next step as NBA players?
It's a great question. And I think I've got a phenomenal staff. Stephen Pearl, Wes Flanagan, Ira Bowman, Mike Burgermaster, Marquise Daniels is my director of player development. Of course, he was a terrific pro. I do think we do a pretty good job of developing players. Okiki, who went back in 2000, player was not a for Orlando. Isaac Okoro was a top 50 high school player, was not a McDonald's All-American, should have been, but wasn't. Went 5 to Cleveland. I mean, that's talking, you're talking guys that went from 50 to 16, from 50 to 5. JT Thor was not on the radar. Walker Kessler played 9 minutes a game at North Carolina. He's with us for 1 year and he goes 22. Look, I do think our staff does a great job. It's one thing to be a revolving door. You take high school All-Americans, you do a really good job with them for a year or two, and they go on and become lottery picks. That's great. That's important work too. But I think you could look to our guys and say, we got some. Jabari's probably the only one that came to me as a lottery and left as the number 3 player. None of those guys came to me as lottery picks. So, yeah, he's ready, and he's ready to play. He's ready to play. He's day one ready, and he's going to get better. I think that's the other thing too. Is Jabari? The other thing I want to say about Jabari is that he wanted to be a great teammate. He wanted to win championship. He just wanted to get better, and so don't judge him day one as to whether or not he was the first pick, second pick, third pick, or whatever it was. Don't. He just turned 19. His upside is he's ready day one, yes, but his upside is NBA All-Star. And so don't expect him to be an NBA All-Star day one, because he is going to get better.
Coach, you've spent so much time with Jabari, so I'm curious, what is your favorite thing about him as a person, as a human being, not as a basketball player? Man,
he's got the right balance between confidence and arrogance. In the sense that he would say to me, BP, get me the ball. He wasn't doing it so he could average 22. He was doing it so he could win. All right? He always showed me great respect and love. And he had my back. And, look, in coaching, you've got to have those guys. It's not my Joe B. Hall said this at a clinic one time. I'm going to quote it. It's not my job to make every right decision. It's not my job. I'm old. I've been doing it a long time. I'm going to make a lot of good decisions, but I'm not going to make every right decision. But it is my player's job to make my decisions work. Jabari Smith will make his coach's decisions work. And there's not going to be any debate about it. And if you're in that locker room and you're wondering, why is coach doing this? And why are we playing? Jabari will tell that guy in any way, shape, or form, shut up and do what the coach tells you to do.
Love that. I love that. I love that mentality. I love all of that. Coach, any parting words for Rockets fans who are, now, like myself, incredibly excited about adding Jabari Smith Jr. to this young, exciting Rockets core?
Man, I just tell you what, they killed in the draft. Eason and Ty are terrific. Eason could be an incredible, undersized, 5-man, his athleticism, his toughness. He got an edge to him. And we recruited Ty at Auburn and love his game, love the way his game has improved, love him as a defender. He's got an old school mid-range game that is, I think, in some ways coming back. And I think he also has that confidence that knows he's either great or he's going to be great. Rockets just absolutely killed it this year. Hats off.
Coach, thank you so much for your time today. I sincerely appreciate it. I wish you all the best of luck moving forward with your program. You're doing incredible work over there. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Excited to see those guys in Vegas, and even more looking forward to watching this season. We'll do this again.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast. Free and available on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, the Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. How excited are you to see Jabari Smith Jr. play for the Houston Rockets after hearing what Coach Bruce Pearl had to say about him, the glowing remarks about the type of player the Houston Rockets really lucked into with the 3rd overall pick in this year's NBA draft? Let me know in the comments. I do read each and every one of those every single day. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.